And welcome to Luca Sprues. In today's video we're going to do an inbox review of Academy's brand new 1/72nd scale Tiger 1 early version in 1/72nd scale. So this one was recently issued, I believe, in the later part of 2023, so I'm pretty excited to have a look at this brand new Tiger tank. Or is it brand new? So, starting off as usual with the box art. As you can see on the front here, we have a very nice, looks like a proper painting of Tiger 131 driving through the desert with a few dead looking trees in the background. They've done a really amazing job if it's painted, because it looks really realistic, but it still looks a little bit like it blends in and like it's been painted, so I don't think it's actually a photo, but hard to tell, but it doesn't look too bad at all driving through the desert there. Then we've just got the titles on the bottom here saying that it's a German Tiger 1 version early, the Academy titles there. Then on the side here we have the three schemes included, along with a few features. So it's, well, a World War II German heavy tank, that's correct. Semi-connected tracks. No idea what that means. I assume that means that some sections of the track are molded, completed, but others have to be added. And it's got an 8.8cm KWK-36 main gun and MG-34 machine gun. The real one did, this one doesn't, but oh well. Then on the side, as I've mentioned, three different schemes. So you have one from the SS 1st Panzer Grenadier Division, Kharkov, Russia, 1943. A second one here from the 530th Heavy Tank Battalion from Russia again in 1943. So these are kind of early Battle of Kursk, and you can see they're both in the Dunkelgelb with the Panzer Green kind of colours on them. And then we have, of course, Tiger 131 as featured on the box art from the 504th Heavy Tank Battalion from Tunisia. So, some nice different schemes, two from the Russian front and one from North Africa, so a good little reflection of the early use of the Tiger. Then we've got a repeat of the box art and some dimensions of the tank along with all the features. A few little warnings and stuff on the top here, and again, repeat of the box art. This time it's horizontal, and as you can see, the price tag for what I paid for this kit, and then that pink sticker there was added for stock taking. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it for the box art. So the instructions are pretty typical in Academy style. You've got a nice repeat of the box art in black and white on the front of the instructions there. Then a whole bunch of warnings, a large number of different keys, and they're all pretty self-explanatory. You've got cement, don't cement, do ×2, decals, add ballast or weight, photo etching, fill a gap, cut, optional part, repeat on the opposite side, holes, caution, don't know what that is for. I'd assume you'd use caution for everything, but no, caution as well. Instant cement, I'm assuming that means glue very quickly. And version 1 or version 2, you know, that's for different variants of things. Then we've got a paint index here, and you've got guides for hum roll, both enamel and acrylic. Then we've got Mr. Color here, we've got Life Color, we've got Model Masters and Tester, both enamel and acrylic. We've got Revell colors in enamel and acrylic. We've got Vallejo, both model color and model air. We've got AK Interactive, and we've got main color, which I'm assuming is Korean because all of the numbers are listed in Korean. But yeah, so we've got a massive variety of paints there, and they're all simplified into just a triangle and a number to represent each color. Not too many colors really in this kit. You've just got flat black, you've got steel, wooden brown, dark yellow, dark green, Africa brown, and sand grey. And of course, you're not going to need all of these colors technically for all of the tanks. It's sort of going to depend on which one you're doing. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear to have the colors, especially for African grey and sand, Africa brown and sand grey for all of the colors. Only Life Color and Testers or Model Master Enamel and Vallejo Model Air seem to have colors representing that. Oh, and AK Interactive. But never mind, I'm sure you'll be able to find an equivalent. It's all pretty standard to German tank colors. Opening up, annoyingly, it's in the fold-out format, which I'm not a big fan of, but most people aren't too bothered. Luckily, the way they've done it here, as you can see, means that you can fold over the instructions to make them take up less space on the bench. So I might do that here. So starting off with step number 1, you've got the two hull sides getting glued to the bottom of the hull there, pretty simple. A huge number of road wheels, which annoyingly will have to probably be painted before they're put into place.
I personally like to leave road wheels and the tracks off until as late as possible, so I wouldn't recommend putting them on straight after you've glued the hulls together. But that's the guide for the road wheels, and as you can see, there's several different types that you have to add several numbers of on each side. Plus, you've also got looks like an extra road wheel here, plus the sprocket here for step number 3. Step number 4, you've got the idler wheel, and then you've got a reference on the bottom here for the positioning of the road wheels. So that's an optional part there. So I'm assuming that's for a different version of the tank. I'm not quite sure what they're changing around there. Looks like possibly a steel road wheel or some extra extension to the front road wheel there, but hard to tell. It doesn't really tell you how to do it on the other side, so I guess you've kind of got to just follow the same format. Unfortunately, it doesn't really tell you to repeat on the opposite side or anything, but oh well. Once you've got all the road wheels in position, then it says to glue on the tracks. Again, it doesn't tell you how to do it on the other side. I assume they're just the exact same part numbers, and you just have to repeat the same step. As you can see, they've sort of done it so there are some segments where it's an individual link, which is a little bit fiddly, but for the larger areas, they've tried to do them as larger pieces. Then we've got the rear part, or rear plate of the tank, and as you can see, you've got some of the early Tiger features, such as the air filters on the outside like that, and the large kind of covers that go over the exhausts. You've got a reference here, I believe that's for the positioning of the exhausts, but not 100% sure. It might be the sand filters. It's 47, 48, 4. Yeah, okay, so that's the sand filters, so helping line those up. Then you've got a separate step here for adding the jack on the back of the piece there, and then you can glue that to the rear of the hull and add on some little D-shackles for towing. Then we've got the upper plate, or the upper surface of the hull there, with the front section as well attached to it, plus a separate piece here for the engine deck for the door to access the engine, and then some more D-shackles which you fit onto the front of the tank there. Then moving on, we've got some more early Tiger features, the large number of air filter vents and pipes that are present on the deck of the vehicle. Got some mud flaps or mud guards for the rear of the tank there. Then we've got a separate piece here for the front armoured plate, along with a separate part for the machine gun. And then you've got 2 separate fenders for the front there, which you attach into position there. Could leave them off if you wanted some battle damage. And speaking of leaving off for battle damage, you've also got even more side skirts for the side of the hull there, and you could cut them up, but otherwise they're all one piece. And as you can see here, it's got the number 55 for the opposite side and 54 for that side, so that's a little bit easier to understand. Then we've got a few accessories on the top here, such as these towing cables, plus 2 lights for the side of the hull there. Looks like, I'm not too sure what the number 3 here is. I'm assuming that's a painting guide for the tools. It's not super clear. Then we've got the assembly of the turrets. So you've got 2 halves that make up the turret, and you insert between them the front mantlet there. And provided you assemble the mantlet correctly, you should be able to freely elevate and depress the gun, should you wish. Then you've got the roof of the turret, which is a separate piece which you attach on. Got a little air filter there, and then some optional holes to drill out for a few accessories by the looks of things. You've also got a bunch of holes on the side of the left turret, which you can optionally have some spare track links, but otherwise at this stage you can fill them in if you don't want them. Plus it looks like another little extra access hatch thingy on the rear of the tank there, or some sort of bulkhead or something like that. Then we've got the storage boxes, which again could be optional, but I think the Tiger tank looks much better with them on. So yeah, attaching them to the rear of the turret there. Then we've got step 15 with installing the smoke launchers on the side of the turret there, on both cheeks, and the commander's cupola with a separate hatch piece, which you can have in the open or closed position. Unfortunately, there's no commander included, but if you have one spare or can 3D print one, then you can always stick someone in there. So then we've got an extra little vision slit for, I believe that's the loader's side of the tank, plus all of the optional separate track links which you can glue to the turret. Then finally, you add the turret onto the rest of the hull, and you can either fill in some holes on the side of the hull there and leave off these extra towing ropes, or you can glue them into place. And of course, if you don't cement your turret, you can insert it into these sort of locking pins and then rotate it into position, and then the turret will freely rotate and it'll be relatively locked into place. Although I do sometimes cut away the locking points on the turret just to make it a little bit easier to put it into place, and then I can take it off more easily. But if you want it locked into place, there's that option. Then we've got our marking guides here, which unfortunately are in black and white, so a little bit tricky to follow. But you've got the first marking scheme here for Tiger 131, and as you can see, there's sort of a vaguely different tone of grey for the different colours, but fortunately you've got your little triangles with the number, so you can tell which colours are which. And then you've got your separate decals, so there's nothing too fancy really, which is common with tanks, but you do have the Balkenkreuz on the side of the tank, the identification numbers on the sides of the turret and on the storage box, and then you've got the emblem for the 504th Heavy Battalion, I believe, for the front of that one. Then for scheme number 2, we've got Tiger 334. Looks like we've got 2, for some reason, guides here. Not too sure what the difference is between these, other than there seems to be 2 of the crosses on the rear of the turret there for one version, or for this other one there is none, so for some reason they felt the need to do 2 color guides for one tank, otherwise everything is identical. Annoyingly, it only shows the sides of the tank, not the top, the front, and the other side, so I assume they expect you to just guess what the other sides of the camouflage pattern look like. I suppose with German tanks it tends to be a little bit of, depending on each type of tank, seeing as it would have been done in the field usually. But yeah, a little annoying they don't include something so you can follow as a guide out of the box. You've got to obviously do your own research, otherwise have a guess. And finally we have the last tank here from the SS 1st Panzer Grenadier Division, so from Kharkov, and again it's pretty similar to the other one here, just a slightly different camouflage pattern, and the numbering's a little bit different, and it looks like the cross is just done in white rather than the black and white on this particular scheme here. So yeah, not the best color guides or marking guides at all really. They're in black and white, so not very easy to read, and they don't show the entirety of the tank, so not very useful there, but oh well. And then on the front, or the back here I suppose, you have a sprue map here. So I'll bring that a little bit closer to the camera. And yeah, as you can see, you've got all of the numbers for all of the different parts there, and then a rough guide to each of the sprues, and you've got 4 of them. There are some unused parts, or rather one unused part, which is number 34A, which yeah, it's that tiny little piece there. I can't really tell what it is from the pictures there. But we're going to have a look at the sprues now, so that shouldn't be too much of a worry. We'll find out what 34A is when we're looking at those. So I am yet to actually open these sprues for the first time, but we'll do that now. So as you can see, we've got 4 relatively large sprues, which is yeah, a decent amount for a 1/72 scale tank. I suppose for a tank the size of the Tiger, it is probably quite normal. So we might start off with the hulls there. And I'm sure many of you guys are looking at these and thinking it looks like quite a familiar tooling, which we will talk about a little bit later. But anyways, so we'll start off here. We've got the underside of the hull, and as you can see, they've done a nice job doing a couple of the little access hatches and drainage ports on the bottom of the tank. Not really something you see, but if you did want to do a pretty detailed diorama, they are there for reference. I've seen some people do some pretty amazing things with these kinds of tanks, where they'll drill out the holes and do a damage tank or one in maintenance. So not super useful, but it's kind of cool that they've still included them. And nothing really on the inside there other than a few ejector pin marks. Then we've got the main sort of upper surface of the hull and a little bit of the front section there. And as you can see, really nice clean job on all of the radiator vents and that sort of thing. Some really nice detail on the hinges and the various little accessories. Very nice detail on those sunken rivets. They look really quite good. And we've got a little bit of raised detail here for the driver and the assistant driver or the radio operator's hatch there. Plus all of these tools which come molded to the hull. I'm not a huge fan of having tools molded. I think it's kind of cool if you can have them as separate pieces and then choose where you want them, or if you want them on your tank at all. But sometimes I think it's a bit easier to paint tools once they're on the tank, but it's up to you. I know there's lots of people who don't like doing it that way. So yeah, if you don't want them, I suppose you can always scrape them off or sand them off and then replace them with your own. Otherwise, at least you've got them there, so that's a little bit less fiddly. And you can see there's a fair few little holes drilled out for some of the other optional accessories, such as the driver's lights and the tow cables. And on the front here, there's no detail for the front plate, but that's because it's a separate piece. But you do have the little distinctive ridge there for the cover where the driver's vision slit would go. It looks like they've sort of done a separating line between the panels of armored plating, but they haven't really done any recessed welding details or anything, so it's not super detailed, but it still is quite nice. Then we've got two almost identical sides for the hulls. The only real difference is obviously they are reflected, and since this tank used torsion bar, you'll notice that on one side the wheels, the arms for the holding the road wheels go forward, and on the other side they go backwards to line them up. But yeah, they all of the arms for holding the road wheels are pre-molded to the hull, which I think is good. A little bit of detail around the sprocket area, but obviously not too much, seeing as you won't see all of it really. Looks like they've done a raised sort of line of rivets and then some sunken detail inside there. You're probably not really going to see any of that once the road wheels are in position, but if you're doing a diorama where they're off or something like that, then at least you've got a fair bit of detail behind there. And yeah, it looks pretty cool, pretty cleanly molded. There's not too many imperfections. There are a few here and there, but nothing major. A little bit of flash in a few spots, but nothing too bad on any of these parts. Other side's pretty much exactly the same. Then we've got some spare tow ropes for the upper surface of the tank, which go here. And as you can see, they've done a really nice job doing a recessed sort of rope kind of pattern. I don't know the technical term for it. These ones would have been made out of metal, but it's got that kind of, you know what I'm talking about, the sort of corrugated, that's not the word. There's a word for it, I'm sure, but that kind of texture for the rope, they've done a really nice job for it, and the shackles look really quite good. More D-shackles here, they look really quite nice, quite cleanly molded. There doesn't seem to be too many imperfections, and it looks like everything is nicely placed, so it should be pretty easy to cut it off the sprue. No sprue identifiers on this one, but these parts are pretty big relative to the size of the tank, so you're probably not going to have too many issues with identifying what is what. So I'll move on to the next set of sprues, which is what we've got here. So we'll move on to the next set of sprues, which include all of the tracks, plus a few little bits and pieces for the hull. So the tracks themselves, as you can see, some of them are molded as the individual links, which are for some of the more bendy parts. And then for the larger sections where the track is a bit more straight, you have these larger bits here. Done a really nice job getting the pattern for the Tiger Tank's tracks. It looks quite accurate. And yeah, they're quite cleanly molded as well. There's a few little bits of sprue here and there that'll need to be cleaned up, but nothing too major. And on the inside here, you've got more of the pattern for helping lock it up to the sprocket wheel. So yeah, looking pretty good. It's I've seen some done a little bit better these days. I think Dragon do a bit of a better job with some of their track links that I've seen. But these ones look really quite nice still and pretty easy to assemble in my opinion. Definitely a lot better than the rubber tracks from some old Essie and Airfix kits. So yeah, I'm a fan of those. Then we've got the rear and the front armoured plates for the hull, and yeah, details quite nice on them. They've got a few little raised details for various access hatches, bit of equipment like these sort of plates on the back of the armoured plate there, and it looks like some nice raised detailing there. Plus for the front plate, we've got a very nicely detailed visor for the driver, and also the distinctive post-box style machine gun mount, with even the recessed detail for the sight there, plus a little hole for the barrel for the machine gun to fit in. We've got the barrel for the machine gun here, which is quite nicely done, very nice detail, and it seems to be pretty close to scale. Not perfect, but still pretty good for out of the box. Some very nice headlights here with the blackout covers on them, which look really quite nice, very detailed. A little bit of a seam line on them, but nothing too major. At that size, it looks pretty decent. Here we have the rear mud flaps or guards for the tank there. Some nice rivet details on them and a few little raised and sunken features on them, looking really good. Exhausts here, or the pipes, which yeah, pretty nicely done. I think they would have been hollow in the middle here, but that's a very fine detail that would have been very hard to do. There are a few ejector pins in some places that'll need to be cleaned up, but otherwise not too bad, and they've done a really nice job doing those raised rivet details. So yeah, looking pretty good, or bolts I should say, I think in this case. Then we've got a little jack here with a very nicely done handle. Yeah, something nice to add on. A little bit of a shame, as I've said, that you don't have the tools like this where they're separate and you can put them in any place you want. But oh well, I think they've actually got guide pins on this one to put it into place. I think it goes here. But yeah, nice little accessory, bit of a seam line, but nothing too major. So these sprues are looking pretty good. We'll move on to the turret and the road wheels. The road wheels, as you can see, there are a ton of them because it's a German tank. Nicely done there, the early road wheels, as you can see, with the rubber. They're not the cleanest of molds of these kind of road wheels that I've seen, but these ones are still not too bad. You can still see where the rubber is, and they've done a really nice job doing the raised bolts and stuff for the center rims of the road wheels. So yeah, there's a lot. They look pretty good. You've got some inner road wheels here with some extra bolts, so they've done a nice job doing the different road wheels. And they're all kind of pretty well organized. You've got number 11s here, number 9 here, number 10, and number 12. So as long as you follow the instructions, that shouldn't be too difficult. On the inside, they've done all the ejector pin marks, so they've put them in some nice hidden places. And yeah, molding's not perfect. It's not the cleanest or crispest, but there doesn't appear to be too many imperfections that will require any major work to clean up. Sprockets are looking a little bit better though. They're very nicely done. They've done the joints to the sprue in some very nice places, so as long as you're careful, you should be able to preserve all of those individual teeth on the sprocket. So yeah, looking pretty nice. A little bit of flashing on the edges of the idler wheels there, but nothing too major, and the details on them are all looking really quite good. Looks like we've got some extra little, I don't know exactly what you'd call them, but sort of parts for the outside of the road wheel, like a sort of retaining cap. Which I believe were the optional parts, 12A. So yeah, they all look pretty nice. Here we've got the roof of the turret. As you can see, it's not an awful lot of surface detail, and I think you do have to do a little bit of drilling for some of the parts. But at least all of the imperfections are on the underside there, so in a not too visible place. And they've done a nice job molding the loader's hatch there, which looks pretty good. Got a few extra little parts here for the turret, looking quite nice there, plus the tiny little vision slit for the loader or gunner. I believe it's the loader though, on that side. So yeah, looking quite nicely done there. Here we've got our barrel, which isn't the best. I've seen some of the more recent tanks that come out with much better molded barrels, especially from Vespid. They do some fantastic molded barrels. So you'll have to do a little bit of drilling to get the actual hole in this one, and I think it'll be worth doing that. Unfortunately, the smaller kind of part here on the muzzle brake isn't really molded very well. There's sort of plastic in the way, so you might have to do a bit of cleanup on that one, but oh well, not the end of the world. There is a bit of a seam line as well, but yeah, that's pretty typical for a gun barrel like that. Here we've got one of the turret sides, and as you can see, they've drilled out all the holes for the track links, which I think is a little bit annoying, but oh well, at least it's probably easier to fill them in if you don't want them than it is to drill them all out if you do want the track links on the side there. Done a nice job doing the bolt there where the gun mantlet goes in, and a little tiny vision slit there for the loader, and gunner as well. I think the loader's got one on his side. Let me check. Yeah, the loader's also got one here, but yeah, so that would be for the gunner. And yeah, it appears that there's a sort of part here which you can drill out, which I think is for the these kind of parts here at the back of the tank, but not 100% sure. But yeah, it doesn't look too badly done, not too many imperfections. Here we've got some other little plate with a few rivets drilled into it, which yeah, looks quite nice. Don't know what it is, but okay. Here we've got some other part here, not too sure again what that one is, but I believe it might be an optional armoured extra piece for the gunner's mantlet there. I think on later Tigers they did add it, but 34A is the one part we're not using in this kit, so doesn't matter really. The mantlet itself looks really quite nice. They've done appropriate raised details, a little bit of a recessed line around where the gun is, some very nice raised bolts, and some very nicely done recessed details for the machine gun there. You can actually see they've sort of done two different lines, which looks quite cool, and the holes there for the vision block for the gunner, which looks pretty good. Here we've got the storage box, all raised details for the little flaps there, which yeah, pretty basic but still looks quite good. A few more little tow cables. These ones don't have the same kind of recessed panel lines, so they're a little bit more basic than the other ones that we have for the upper surface of the hull. But oh well, if you want to use them, that's cool that they're there. And then we've just got the side skirts here, which are nice and thin. Obviously, they're not to scale in terms of thickness, so if you're really into making them look bent, you might want to replace them with some photo etch ones. Otherwise, you can try and sand them until they're nice and thin, or you can just put them on straight. You're not really going to notice too much of the thickness of the plastic there when they're in position. But they've done a really nice job doing recesses between the panels there, and some nice raised rivets for the attachment points to the hull. So yeah, looking pretty good. And now we have the final parts, and as you can see here, it is specifically for the early Tiger tank, and these are all the kind of more unique parts. So we've got the other side of the turret there. I'm just realizing that the escape hatch that's kind of famous for being on the Tiger would usually be on the right. Looks like it's not molded in, which I'm assuming is a early feature of the Tiger tank. It must have been added in a little bit later. So yeah, comment if you're a bit more of an expert on the finer points of the Tiger, if that looks correct. But yeah, they've left out the access hatch for the rear, or the escape hatch, which I think would be accurate. Then we've got the maintenance hatch for the engine there, which is quite a large piece. Looks like there's some hinges on it, so I don't know if they've molded it in such a way that you could appropriately have that in an open position. But yeah, but at least the details look pretty nice on it, and you can see they've got the raised details and the access hatches there for the various maintenance parts on the deck of the tank. And you've also got these raised pipes coming out for the air filter system on the early Tiger. Looks pretty good. We've got the early tank version of the covers for the exhausts, which are very, very square. I'm not a huge fan of them. I much prefer the more later curved ones, but it's accurate for this variant of the Tiger, so looking pretty good. Looks like the front fenders there, which look accurate to the early Tiger as well. Some nice recessed and raised hinges there, which I think they could fold them open and close to access the track for maintenance. But yeah, looking quite good there. Then we've got the actual air filter piping there, which looks pretty nice. Not too many imperfections. They've drilled out some holes there for some of the exhaust, so that looks really quite awesome. Done a very nice job there. Then we've got the larger sort of air filter parts here that go on the back of the tank. Again, really nice job. They're cleanly molded. Detail is pretty good. Bit of a seam line on the sides here, but nothing too major that can't be fixed. Looks like we've got the smoke launchers there for the sides of the turret. I think on the later Tiger they were in a different spot, but yeah, that's the early 6 ones for the sides of the turret. Looking pretty good. Here we've got the hatch for the commander's cupola, and it looks pretty nice. I think they've actually done some raised detail there for the locking system. So that looks pretty accurate, and they've done a nice job on the upper surface doing the hatch there, details like the hinge and the little handle for grabbing it, so that looks pretty good. And here we have the early Tiger cupola, which is quite large and very thinly armoured actually. If you played War Thunder, you'll know it's a bit of a shock trap for these tanks, but probably why they changed it in the later ones. As you can see, they've actually done recessed parts there for the vision blocks, so yeah, that's pretty cool. You can always fill them up with a little bit of PVA glue or some sort of reflective material to make it look like glass. Otherwise, you can leave it open and you'll have some nice shadowy looking vision blocks for the commander, so pretty cool. I like that kind of style of doing it. And yeah, as you can see, hatch can be done in the open or closed position. Annoyingly, they've sort of put some bits of sprue there, which will require a little bit of cutting before you can actually put your hatch into position. But oh well, if you want to do the clean up and have the hatch open, you can do that. Otherwise, you probably could just glue that over the top of that and not notice a thing. So here we have our decals, which I haven't opened from the packaging. I might as well leave them in there. I don't think I'll bother opening them up just yet. But they're standard Academy decals that are printed in Korea. I don't really have any issues with Academy's decals. I think they're of pretty good quality. Maybe not quite cartograph, but they don't seem to silver. They seem to be relatively thin, and as you can see for this tank, even with the very fine kind of details for the emblems, they've still done a really nice job getting all those details. And the colour on them looks pretty accurate for the kind of red that the Germans would have used for the identification on the tanks. So yeah, looking pretty good. Not a huge amount to comment on these decals, but that's pretty normal. German tanks tend to be quite simple, but what is there looks of good quality, and as I've said, Academy, no issues with their decals in the past. So that pretty much wraps up our look at the brand new Academy German Tiger 1 early version in 1/72 scale. Although, is it really that new? And I have to say, it actually isn't. You may have noticed that the tooling looks rather familiar, and that is because it is in fact the Revell Tiger tank from the mid 1990s, and it's been rebranded with Academy. So I'm not quite sure what kind of deal they're going on with, whether they bought the tools or if they're doing some sort of agreement. Maybe it's a bit cheaper for Academy to distribute them. Because not only have they done this with the Tiger 1, they've also done it with the Tiger 2, T-34, the Abrams, and a few other modern tanks. Is it good that they've done this? Well, personally, I have to say I'm quite pleased. Because at least in Australia, usually a Revell Tiger costs around about 40 to late 30s AUD. So that's honestly, for what they are, quite expensive. I would say that maybe for the Vespid kits or the Dragon kits that tend to have photo etching and other better details and upgrades, and are a bit more cleanly molded, that maybe they're worth $40, but really I don't think you should be paying much more than about $30 for a 72nd scale tank, in my opinion. Unfortunately, with Academy, as you've seen, I paid $25 for this one. So $25 for a Revell tooled Tiger tank, I think that's pretty decent, honestly. And as I've said, they've done some nice choices for markings, and obviously there's plenty out there. You can always get your own numbers and change things up. There's probably more Tiger tank kits out there than there were actual Tiger tanks in real life. Yeah, so I'm pleased that Academy have done this, and I look forward to maybe grabbing a couple of the other tanks at some point. The only thing I'm not happy with is the instructions are a bit of a letdown, especially the painting guide. Fortunately, with the internet now, you can pretty easily find good reference pictures and other guides for painting these particular schemes. But I would have hoped for a better guide out of the box. Otherwise, pretty good kits. I like the Revell tank kits, other than them being expensive, which is now not so much of an issue with this particular kit. Yeah, I think they're pretty good. So definitely recommend this one. And even if you're a beginner, honestly, other than the instructions, as I've said, it goes together pretty well without too much fuss, and you get a pretty nice looking Tiger tank. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. It really helps. And also a massive shout out to my wonderful patrons for helping me fund buying these kits and the products that I use to make them. And hopefully, all things going well, I will have a second video coming this week, and it will be a stop motion, which is one of my favourite things to do with these kits when I finish them. So stay tuned for that one. And yeah, if you've got any questions about this kit or any suggestions for the build on this one, leave it down in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to eventually doing a build video on this one, but there'll be a lot more projects that I'm working on before then. And that's kind of what I'm planning to do in the future, is a lot more inbox review videos with less build videos, just because it's easier to do the inbox reviews. I enjoy doing them, and you guys seem to enjoy watching them, so win-win for me. But otherwise, thanks again for watching this one, and as always, take care, and until the next video, model on.